The movie begins with the fragments of a newsreel, which imprinted the most high points in the history of exploration of space, which was not led to finding of any proof of existence of extraterrestrial life. And here on the biggest satellite of Saturn, the Titan prepares for start the spaceship Magellan under Roger Nelson's command. The astronaut carries out an inspection of onboard systems and for fun asks not to report him to the wife about flight conditions, but the woman is in soup too and perfectly hears his words. There comes time to prepare to Astasi's to artificial immersion in a dream, as the gravitational push will occur in 2 minutes. We are postponed to 2.5 years ago. During the picnic to Roger, the call from NASA, in which report to him about the forthcoming briefing devoted to the future mission arrives. The wife of the astronaut Abigail, the expert in artificial intelligence, sincerely is happy for the husband as his dream to depart to space at last that will come true next day. Design head Gal Baker reports to team about receiving a signal from distant space which was taken first for a pulsar, but then caught 2 more signals on different radio frequencies with increase in tones. Having connected these signals together, experts received Ideal, a major triad that proves their artificial origin. They came from within the solar system, namely from the satellite of Saturn, the Titan, the companion of the Neptune, a Triton from the dwarf planet Iris. United States Secretary of Defense Clyde Stewart, to sound details of the forthcoming mission during which Nelson should visit all these places to collect samples, and perhaps even to come into one contact with extraterrestrial mind. Roger, of course, has the right to refuse flight. It will last the whole 10 years, but the man agrees. In the evening, Abigail makes to the husband scandal. She does not want to release the husband at all, it is unknown where, but Roger reminds that she married the astronaut, also makes a promise to come back home. And here, 2.5 later, Nelson lays down in the ship capsule of Astasi's to wake up 18 months later on planetary, an orbit of Saturn. The artificial intelligence of the ship, by the name of Ferdinand, provides to the commander of the report on work of ship systems and reports about obtaining 229 messages from NASA, with a mark important. Abigail from Melancholy for the husband was started with it a virtual game in chess. Having answered its course, Roger checks the message, from which learns that Chinese decided to send the ship for search of sources of a signal too, but it will fly to the Neptune at once. Soon Magellan approaches the Titan, and Roger is going to land manually to the revealed signal source which is located on the northern part of the Titan. At this time come transfer from Tsupi. Baker congratulates Nelson on successful advance of a mission and hints at emotional problems of his wife, who refused to write down messages for the husband. Having listened to it, the captain passes into the module. Ferdinand warns the commander that their order and by the name of Nile, which programmed Abigail, and successfully brings Roger to the surface of titanium. Having landed near the hydrocarbon lake, Nelson starts a hose for collecting samples, and itself moves off in searches of the mysterious transmitter. Soon Nile to prevent it that it from the east moves drilling strong wind and explosion hazard of vapors of methane. But the man persistently continues search, and to find out that the signal goes straight from the lake. Roger goes to the right place, and under a layer of liquid methane finds the sphere aside. Then Nile hurries to take cover on board the module, considers takeoff business unsafe, therefore recommends to the commander to wait until wind ceases, waiting for weather. Rogers with interest considers the transmitter of aliens and dares to touch it bare-handed. What objects react by means of a sound and light the commander to, stacks him in the allocated place, hoping that did not make something irreparable. Having waited for small weakening of the wind, Roger comes back on Magellan and leaves an orbit of the Titan, having given to Ferdinand the order to head on the Neptune, then writes down the video message for NASA and separately for English, in which he tells about the found object. Soon the answer from Baker comes. The center celebrates success, and the head asks to start immediately the analysis, observing all protocols of safety. Then Roger to write down one more message which admits that, contrary to the protocol, touched the transmitter bare-handed, and asks for permission to repeat an experiment on the camera. Waiting for the answer, Nelson decides to occupy himself. Analyses of the samples of methane taken from the lake where, much to astonishment of, finds availability of amino acids. And it means that on the Titan, the life unexpectedly is possible. The message arrives from Offended. She tells that some Chinese hacker cracked its house computer in information searches about a mission that strongly angered the Minister of Defense and now can forbid her completely an entrance to Control Center and deprive of her the only opportunity to communicate with Abigail's husband. After 18 months of separation, begins to seem that Roger anymore will never return. Nelson tries to calm the wife, and before leaving in stasis, he continues a game of chess, having made the new course. 32 months later, Magellan reaches a Triton. Roger wakes up and receives the report on a failure of the robot of the intelligence agent, so this time he should look for a signal source independently. Concerning Chinese, there are no news too. Quite perhaps they were ahead of them and already visited a Triton. Unexpectedly, Ferdinand reports that during Astasi's in the communication system of the ship, the anomaly was recorded, and in a brain of the astronaut, the activity was observed as though Nelson had a dream. Baker confirms that he, during the anomaly lasting 34 minutes alien transfers, told that like the binary code, which were still not deciphered by the man, is afraid that it could happen because of Togo, that Nelson, ignoring the protocol, touched an object barehanded, and persistently asks the commander not to do more so. Besides, he sent to Nelson the text message, in which he asks to look for Ferdinand as someone tries to crack it a little later. Roger decides to disobey the head, and again touches Mysterious the transmitter, having asked and to capture all this on the camera. An object begins to shine, and before Roger's eyes pictures, water and stars flash from what the man falls from a chair. Ferdinand immediately sends everything to Nassau. A time later, the ship orbits a Triton, and Roger receives the video message from Baker. According to him, Chinese after all went to an expedition, but something went wrong, and 3 crew members died. Despite danger, the man goes down on the surface of the satellite and pretty fast marks the second transmitter among stones at the bottom of a crater. On going down and returning, it has only 15 minutes. Roger, having found the transmitter, hardly begins to get and loses a trunk with the sphere. It is necessary to go down once again. In the last seconds, the man manages to reach the module and to fly up to Magellan. Later, he receives the message from the wife, which she admits that all her career got derailed. For these 4 years from the popular expert, she turned into just wife of the famous astronaut and begins to consider herself the widow. Meanwhile, Ferdinand finishes the analysis of a sample of ice from a Triton and concludes that it is not similar to terrestrial water, as in it too many impurity meet, and this time in samples there are no amino acids. Besides, while Roger was on a surface, Ferdinand confirmed existence of the underground ocean under an ice crust of a Triton, in whom marked some large objects which have other structure than ice and can move. Roger assumes that it can be fishes, but in the conditions of a Triton, they have to be just huge. Soon the message from the Minister of Defense, who is deeply revolted with the facts of violation of the protocol. Therefore he orders to keep transmitters in containers far away from himself, comes, and now he will communicate directly with it. And all civil, including Baker, will be discharged of management of flights until Nelson does not abandon Iris. But Roger is inexplicable pulls to alien spheres. He touches again them, and when they begin to shine, see a stream of own memoirs and hear the talk with the wife. Later time, Magellan reaches the planet, and an Iris Roger finds the third sphere, and together with it some slime. Having taken a sample with himself, the man tries to return on the ship, but in joining attempt, Roger sees the red fires signaling that the hatch does not open. Though Ferdinand assures what everything be all right, Nelson suspects that it was cracked again, therefore asks, and both to clean the memory and to check a security system. Soon fires of the docking mechanism light up green, and Roger carries out joining manually. Having returned aboard, the commander first of all gives also the order to customize a new protective system and to provide a key only to it. Later, Ferdinand makes the analysis of mysterious slime and confirms that the sample biological and contains unknown DNA. Happy Roger, wishing to report independently about improbable opening, at once sends not encrypted message to the Earth in which he serially addresses Baker and Abigail, thinking out the name to the substance found it. And in addition, the astronomer Ferdinand's failure notifies Stewart because of what he undertakes ship handling. Waiting for the answer, Roger picks up at the same time all three spheres and see different images. Suddenly, electronics of the ship begins to fail, and Ferdinand warns about a huge stream of radio signals. Several million messages at the same time begin to pass through the communication system of the ship. Both and never earlier faced such volume of data. Then Nelson asks to write down and analyze at least the first 1,000 messages. Also learns that a broadcast arrived from different places of the galaxy and are transferred to the communication system of Magellan through spheres. Ferdinand cannot stop the stream but can define position of places from where they go, and all show on the main screen, but remains unclear whether there is a transfer in real time or it was far back in the past. In opinion, and all numerical designations of signals can specify an age of the universe to within seconds. Roger assumes that aliens use quantum complexity and bring signals to terrestrial radio waves, and it means that people just did not hear earlier the address. Suddenly on the ship, the new signal which source is far outside the explored areas of the solar system, in an Oort cloud, arrives. And there to reach to Nelson, it is necessary to spend 38 years of life. So far, Ferdinand sends on the Earth. The results received by it, Roger writes down Abigail's message, explaining that he goes on the way, also exempts it from all data to it obligations. Before plunging in stasis, he makes the last move and orders to Ferdinand to head for an Oort cloud. The next option of reflections on mankind in space is not present here. Super-mutual the ideas and the large budget on directed disembarkation to planets. But the philosophical component of a plot forces to ask once again a question of a way of mankind that the truth somewhere is near, and with you there was more Fox will meet. Very soon.